Okay, class, this lesson is on a couple miscellaneous graphing elements from chapter 3, two major topics. Graphing a system on the calculator where we need to work with decimals and things that can't be done by hand with any sort of accuracy, so we do them on a calculator. And also how to graph a system of inequalities. We're talking about not a point, but a shaded area or region as a solution set. So no, those are the major things today. And also, how do we do an application problem on a calculator when needed? First thing we want to look at is, how to use the calculator to find a system solution. Notice in this problem here, if I'm going to graph these things, I want to either use intercept form, which doesn't work well for the first equation up here, just because 3 and 4 doesn't go equally into 13. So let's go ahead and solve for y so we can get to y equals mx plus b form. So this equation here is going to end up being y is equal to, move the 4 to the other side, so we have 4 divided by 3x, and then we have negative 13 divided by 3. So notice what we have here is the equation where the slope looks fine, but we have this negative 13 divided by 3. So that's 4 1/3 negative. So it's going to be somewhere down here. And we have a slope of up 4 over 3. I'll move my dot down a little bit. So let's do that. Up 4 over 3. And notice I'm getting close to intersections, but not as precise as I want. So we generally have a line that looks like that. If I do the same thing for the other equation here, put this into y equals mx plus b form, we have y is equal to 7x plus 7. So what we have here is same thing starting at positive 7, and we have a slope of 7 as well. Now notice here my intersection is going to be somewhere way down here. Okay. Now again, we know our intersection is going to be somewhere down here in the fourth quadrant. But already with the negative 13 over 3 and kind of off the graph, I don't have a good accurate picture. So I want to use the calculator instead to do this. So I'm going to enter these two equations into the calculator here. And let's bring that up. First turn it on. And let's go to y equals. And I'm going to put them in. Now notice my plot 1, 2, and 3 are not on, so I'm going to scroll up and turn the plot on, so that way I can see what's going on here. So equation number 1, I'm going to type in y equals 4/3 x, and the x key is the one right here underneath mode, xt theta n. So that's the variable that the calculator is using right now. I have the default set to x variable, minus 13 divided by 3. Second equation is, again, 7x plus 7. So again, that variable key is right underneath the mode key here. And then we can hit graph. Now notice my data, my graph is set to my old data. So if I want to zoom to a nice clean window, I'm going to hit second, or this actually just, not second, but just zoom itself, and scroll down to standard. And that gives you a nice even picture here, and actually my dots here are my plot. So I'm going to go to y equals again. I'm going to turn off that plot because I have data stored in there. So I'm just going to scroll up, hit enter, and turn that off. And notice as long as the equal signs are blacked out there, that means that those things are turned on. So now if I hit graph again, notice my dots are gone, but my two lines are here. So there's the first line, there's the second line. And we can see an intersection down here in the fourth quadrant, very similar to our graph. Now to get that, I'm going to follow the green box over here, and this is where I'm looking right here. And I'm going to follow those instructions. So I'm at y equals, good. Now that I have the graph, I'm going to go to second and then calculate, which is right above the trace key. And it's going to say, okay, what do we want to find? Well, in this case, I want to find the intersection of those two lines, the solution. So hit enter. And it's asking, okay, what two graphs or curves or functions do you want? And see the blinking flashing dot here on the first curve, it says first curve question mark. You're going to hit enter, confirming, yes, I want that curve. And then it jumps down the list to y2, which in our case, you can see up in the corner, y2 2, second function, is 7x plus 7. So that's the second equation, and we can kind of see it blinking up here on the y-axis. And I want the second curve. Yes. So now I told the calculator what two functions I wanted. Now it's saying, okay, help me out here and guess where the intersection is. Now this is because if we have curves and conics and so forth, we may have several intersections. Lines, there's only one, but we still want to help the calculator out. So I'm going to take the arrows up here and I'm going to scroll over, and we can see the dot moving, and then you see the x value and y value of the dot, and that tells you where it's at. So I'm going to scroll over and get near that intersection, and once I'm near it, I'm going to hit enter. And from here, the calculator will generate intersections near that guess point. And notice here we have an answer, -2, -7. So over here we have -2, -7. So actually my graph's a little bit off right here, which is fine, but we have -2, -7. Again, I just used the graph right away to guesstimate basically what region I'm looking in. Again, I didn't want to go through all the complications of with the fractions and so forth here, so I just did it to find a region. Here it worked out as a nice clean answer, but not always, and we'll see that in the next slide. So that slide here shows you how to use the calculator.